22nd Chennai International Film Festival Master Classes and Conversation பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம். அதுல இன்னைக்கு ரசூல் பூக்குட்டி அவர்கள பத்தி தான் பார்க்க போறோம். ரசூல் பூக்குட்டி The Slumdog Billionaire படத்துக்காக ஆஸ்கர் அவார்ட் வின் பண்ண ஒரு சவுண்ட் இன்ஜினியர் தாங்க. இவர் தான் இன்னைக்கு வந்து இந்த மாஸ்டர் கிளாसेस அண்ட் கான்வர்சேஷன்ல வந்து பார்ட்டிசிபேட் பண்ணிருக்காரு. இவர் பகிர்ந்துகிட்ட இவரோட எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் பத்தி நீங்களே பார்த்து தெரிஞ்சுக்கோங்க.
Sounds performed by artists, we broadly call them Foley artists. So if somebody is walking in a film, they will also walk with the same, so that it's in sync. My assistant's wife gave a birth, and first thing I asked him, like, go record. When the baby cry for milk, don't give the milk. I think the best philosophers I can find it in the barber shop. You know, the best of the wisdom come from roadside tea sellers. The sound design in a film is subconscious art. You know. Yeah, I was saying thank you for making me part of this festival. Chennai is very close to my heart, and almost all my big commercial outings are from Chennai. And my first film happened to be shot in Chennai, and gone through enormous trouble, but look back, it's all very pleasant experience. So it's very befitting that this my film has been showcased in Chennai International Film Festival, and there's a lot of students, a lot of fans, a lot of enthusiasts who follows my work who are from Chennai, and I'm very happy to be able to talk to all of them, at least give them back whatever knowledge that I have gained over a period of time. And Chennai happened to be one of the cities that I wanted to work, but never could work during my initial years of my career. Probably it's all circling back at what is today. Thank you so much for this enormous opportunity. I feel privileged and honored to be here and speaking to you. And thank you for the AV. It is quite heart-touching. During the introduction, the person who was introducing, Sumaya, said, you know, sound is the soul of every storytelling. I do not know she just said it offhand or she actually meant it. It is actually the soul of storytelling, because we come from a tradition, we as a civilization come from a tradition which understood for the first time ever in the world sound as knowledge. You know, sound was not something that we just heard. Even the recent studies of neuroscience say that, you know, hearing is the most important aspect of a human sensation, because the very detailed study of Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson, they have realized that what is affecting the neuro senses in the brain is that the brain constantly have to get input. You know, you understand, if you understand artificial intelligence, it's all about what is the input data that you give, you know. So this is the only, when you're sleeping, your eyes are closed, there's no input going in from visual aspect into the human body. But sound is, ear is always open, and it is constantly giving the input to the brain. So if you look at the whole human brain as a CPU of an artificial intelligence, an AI machine, the input is all coming from hearing. So it's one of the most important sensory aspect of human species, and it is the only civilization in the world, the Arsha Bharat Sanskar, is what understood sound as a discipline that can actually drive you into path of enlightenment. You know, just to tell you an example, today we know as the seat of knowledge. The knowledge as we know today is the Vedas. You know, the Vedas are organized in a form where it is easy to remember. You know, the knowledge in the Indian tradition has come from one generation to the other as memory, is memorized, you know, as oral tradition. And it is always organized in a way, if you listen to the rendition of Vedas, it is always easily memorable sounds, So to me, standing here today and using sound in storytelling, I can confidently say that sound is not just an electrical impulse that because of which you hear, it's also, it's memory for me, and memory is knowledge. So today, India is only culture that understood it. And also, India is the only culture that has understood human body as the first musical instrument. If you look at the ancient form of Indian classical music, which is in today's, as we know, the Drupad tradition of Indian classical music, has understood Sapta Swaras as emanated from Nabhi to Uchi, 7 points from Nabhi to Uchi. He can hold the throat of a singer who is practicing Hindustani Drupad classical music. He can still sing because the sound is not coming from the throat. It is coming from Sapta Swaras emanated from various parts of the body. And we realize that when Saptaswaras are emanated to that level, your Kundalini will raise and you see Brahma. So you become an enlightened person. Every artist in this country are people who have seen Brahma. That is why we touch their feet. When we see them, when we meet them, we touch that Guru Shishya Parambara has come from that thought that an artist is somebody who is standing next to God, because he's seen Brahma. That is why. So it's very divine. To be an artist in this country is very divine because you are not just a practitioner of something, a craft that you know. It is also about self-emancipation, You probably have heard stories from various classical musicians that the same raga that he performs at morning in a performance and the same raga he performs in another place, the performance will be different because he constantly interact with the audience, constantly interact between, say, sa re ga ma pa tha ni sa, between sa and re. There is a search of an artist to find what is the microtonal ornamentation of sa and the microtonal ornamentation of re, where it is meeting. It is that understanding is that eventually makes the same raga that performs, make it different in the same, even though it is the same raga, it has the same structure. But whereas if you look at the Western classical music, it is the same. It has one mathematical structure. Whoever performs it, whoever writes it, it follows the same structure. A Beethoven symphony will be the same, whoever plays it. It's only the musicians' exponents will change. Apart from that, the structure remains the same. But a classical raga that is performed by the same artist in two different places are two different, search for one's own art. So art was not just a practice in Indian tradition. It was always a search for an artist to find himself, find a spiritual awakening. In cinema also, people have tried this. If you look at in Christianity, there is something called grace. That you achieve, like the way in Hinduism we say that awakening or spiritual awakening. Valmiki had spiritual awakening, Buddha had spiritual awakening. Apart from the avatars, all the avatars, people who have emancipated, people who have seen Brahma, they all have become, not the ordinary people, but just above the ordinary people. Something similar you have it in Christianity called the grace. Robert Bresson's films are supposed to be, the act of making the film itself is for him is a search for grace. So, but having said this, coming from such a great tradition of sound and knowledge and spirituality, it is our cinema, Indian cinema, is the least practicing, sound to this level. in Indian filmmaking. There are a lot of reasons for it. I mean, I have my own theories about it. There are historical reasons behind it. We will come to that later. All that is done in the name of audiences, in the name of mainstream audiences. People believe that the so-called filmmakers believe that they don't know anything, you know. But I feel the best philosophers I can find it in the barber shop, you know. The best of the wisdom come from roadside tea sellers, you know. That's what India is all about. And most of our filmmaking, sadly, is devoid of that understanding. And so sound has taken a back seat in Indian cinema. I've been practicing, I've been propagating the need to be aware of the power of sound in storytelling. On that note, I'll just show you a couple of, maybe one sequence from one of my most celebrated, internationally celebrated work. So I can take you through what we actually do in filmmaking with sound. Whether is, like Soumya said, whether sound is just a narrative, or Sumaya, sorry. Or is it just something beyond that? I'll just take you through. We can play the first clip, and I'll play you this clip mute so you understand it, and then I'll play you with sound. So we'll go for mute. Okay, we can play this again with sound. Okay, so what was the difference when the first time when you saw the film, the clip, you found it is very disjunctive, it is boring, you felt it is too long, unnecessarily going. But second time when you heard it, it just went past like that. You felt the time is short, everything made sense. You sensed a space where the story was happening. There was some emotional lines that you went through. And how was it made possible? So I'll just take you through what has actually happened in creating. It was just 2 minutes long, but when it was played without sound, it felt it is too long. It's going on and on for no reason. So that's what sound does. It condenses the sense of time, and it also takes you through certain emotions. I'll just guide you how it is done basically in cinema. So what are the sounds that you hear in a film? You know, I ask questions and I will only answer it. You don't have to worry about it, okay? Okay. Suddenly everyone feels that they're sitting in a class. The whole tension in the room is like sort of building up. So you can relax your facial muscles, don't worry. So the primary sound is the actor's performance. We call it dialogues. Or when a film like this is a short sync sound or live sound. So here we call it production sound, or the sound of the performance of actors captured while the film is being shot. Later on in the evening when you see Otta is also shot live in some of the most difficult locations in Chennai. So it's a performance of actors. It's called dialogue or the production sound. That's what the film goes with at the editing table. And when you're editing the film, they have picture and they have sound which is captured on location. What is the other sound? You know, when the lady was washing the clothes, you heard the sounds of water dripping and sounds of her clothes, you know, wet clothes. So these are all performance of actors that we recreate in a studio. Generally we call it Foley sounds. So it could be footsteps, it could be clothes shuffle, it could be movement. It can also be quite intricate at times, you know. I can just imagine just a footstep of somebody walking out of the door, you know, and it's a regular sound of a feet that you're hearing, maybe an executive shoe, you know. Imagine you're hearing a high heel shoes, Suddenly you make out it is a woman. Okay? And imagine, along with the high heel shoes, you're hearing the sound of payal, kolusu. Then you immediately say it's a girl from India, you know. Or imagine you sounding, the footstep can be sound of mujri, you know, it can be more leatherish. So what is that I'm doing by doing so? I am actually saying the anthropological information, culturally who they are, what they are. And period, for example, when I did a film like Parishiraja, period was very important. It happened 100 years before today's time. So what kind of footwear they use, you know. When I did Kochariyan, for example, I had the same kind of information, same kind of question that I had to ask the director as to what is a floor, what is a dirt, you know, what kind of, is it a cement floor, is it a mosaic floor, is it a stone floor, you know. According to that, the texture and sound keep changing. So these are all sounds performed by artists. We broadly call them Foley artists. So if somebody is walking in a film, they will also walk with the same, so that it's in sync. We use the same, maybe what is the kind of nature of sound that we want. We use the same material. Sometimes I make those particular materials so that, you know, a particular sound is achieved. So those are called Foleys. These are, I say it's a performing enhancement of sound. You know, an actor's performance, which is during the shooting, it is not mic'd for that particular sound, but mic'd only for dialogue. But we recreate in the studio and we capture that sound called Foleys. So that's the second sound of. And the third is, we broadly call it ambience. What is an ambience? It can be a day, or it can be night, or it can be early morning, it can be noon, it can be late evening. How do you distinguish a particular place? It is a sound of ambiences that you hear. Or sometime it also tells you seasons. When do you hear sound of quail? During summertime, you know, it's a summer bird, you know. When do you know that, you know, somebody sitting in a valley, for example, you have longer calls of birds. So ambience is something that is constantly defining a space, you know. When you put a camera to one place, the camera is capturing a two-dimensional picture. So when you look at a picture from left to right, the eye scans from left to right. So you're actually seeing a two-dimensional picture. But when I'm putting sound to it, the sound is covering the screen, as well as in a Dolby Atmos or Dolby 7.1 situation. There are also speakers that is covering. So sound is something that is extending out of the screen into enveloping the audience. Sound is basically parabolic, you know, in my opinion. People may not agree with me, but I would say sound is parabolic in nature, the way it is being set up in a theater. The sound is actually enveloping you. So what is the space or time of the day or seasons? It has been constantly defined by the sounds that you're hearing as ambience. That's the third set of sound. Fourth is, you know, when the people were approaching and the train was passing, you heard a different kind of sound, which is, we broadly call it sound effects or sound design, you know. Imagine a situation where somebody is walking out of a room, and suppose he's stomping his footsteps. Then we get an idea that the character is angry. And if you add a door slamming, then it is even more iterated that the person is, the character is angry. We don't have to see it, but we can just hear it and make a sense of narrative, you know. Those are called sound effects or sound design. Then you heard the music, right? Then we as sound designers, we also compose using various kinds of sound, and which creates an emotional meaning. Unlike the music, I mean, the music also creates music has ready emotions, because a composer composes a particular piece of music with various musical instruments, which probably based on a raga or based on some structure, musical structure. So because of the nature of it, it gives you immediately an emotional meaning. Whereas when we do sound design, we also does exactly the same thing as what the composer does, but with sounds. So it gives you an emotional element, but it does not immediately give you a drama. You know, in narrative cinema, we always want to control the drama and the music. Now the whole game is where to bring what sound at what level. You know, when you heard this one single piece, you heard it as one sound, isn't it? But broadly, it consists of 5 different categories of sound that I just explained to you. And each category has multiple layers of sound. That's how we construct it, you know. You construct it from nothing. So I'll just play you the track once again. We can keep the lights on. And I'll just walk you through what is actually happens, what comes where and how it is used. Can you play that clip again? Sound effects that define that place. Ambience that says it's Dharavi. You know, it's actually recorded in Dharavi, and the boy playing. This is, you hear the Foley sounds. It's one of my favorite dialogue in the film. Wake up that morning, I didn't realize that. If it wasn't for Ram and Allah, my mother would have still been alive. You know. So what has actually happened is we had the option of having 5 different kinds of sounds, and we just decided to bring one sound at various point in the film. You know, we began showing the whole atmosphere as it is natural, what is happening there. Then as the story in that one particular scene progressed, we kept shifting angles, we kept shifting sounds, we kept shifting the nature of sound, how you're hearing. You know, when we were shooting the sequence, Danny always came and told me that when the boy comes out of the water, I want to hear the sound as if water is running through his ear, through his ear. You know, then I kept telling Danny that we don't record like that. You know, we'll create that in the post-production, because let's record everything, whatever is happening. So I recorded with multiple stereo microphone to capture that. Then we changed it during the post-production stage, from the final mixing of the film. So when the boy comes up, you listen that everything is muted. So the actuality of the fact that the boy there's water running through his ear. Also the whole film in your mind shift to the boy's perspective. The horror of mother being killed in front of him, in front of his eyes, and his escape. And music very slowly making an emotional statement. You know, Rahman had given us music for the entire sequence, but we decided that we will not bring the music until a particular point in the film. And also one element of the music has been brought in. Initially the piano brought in. Initially a string line brought in. Then the piano brought in. Then when the kids actually start running for their life, in the horror of riot, we kicked in the rhythm, the music in its full level, in full throttle. Then, you know, when you make a film like this, it's not a film about an activism, or it's not a film about making political statements. And Danny never wanted to make political statements. It was a very open fact that when the Bombay riots happened, the police didn't help anybody. You know, they were playing cards there. You don't hear the sound of the policeman. You hear it reverberated, you know. So an artist, I mean, this is how we help the director not to make it a political statement, but make it very artistic about it, you know, whatever the statement. So just by doing sound the way it has been done, you know, it shift focuses. It allows the audience to go through a certain narrative line, a certain emotional space. And it just takes you to lead you. What it's actually doing is, it is actually making you think, this is what we want the audience to think. This is what we want the audience to feel at this particular moment. So for me, the sound design in a film is subconscious art. You know, you will not recognize what made you feel that way. For unless I make you go through this, run you through this, you will not recognize it. You will see it, you get some meaning, you understand it, you feel for it, and you walk out. And you think that you heard one sound. The one sound that you hear is an amalgamation of many, many multiple layers of sound, which we have decided, which I have decided, or with the director, decided that this sound at this level, at this way, it will come and go. And every time, every sound, any sound that you hear in a film is not accidental. Everything is purposely put there with an intention, with a reason. You know, that's why I say in filmmaking, sound design is a subconscious art. You know, it's a very, very conscious decision as to what to do and how to make an audience feel what they should feel. So, on that note, I conclude the basic talk on the narrative power of sound. Yeah, so we can go back to the next phase of the Q&A. Okay, yes, please.
Hi, sir. This is Netaj Nandakumar from International Institute of Film and Culture. I want to ask a couple of questions, sir. First of all,
begin with one.
Okay, sir. First of all, for me, I never thought that a sound effect or a sound that could make me cry or that could make my eyes wet, that I have experienced in the 2.0 when the last breath of that sparrow. In that scene, that I was astonished, totally. And that moment I made what a sound designing could make us feel so I, sir. So that's a good credit goes.
Thank you. I mean, for me, the whole film, I've done the whole film just for that scene.
Yeah.
You know,
Thanks.
I find myself in one scene, even if when I'm doing like out and out commercial films, you know, where sound is not even considered, but I'll find one scene that is mine. I remember spending days and days sitting in a room, bringing sparrows in and making them talk, and they just get scared. They just don't talk, you know. Then I put lights in the studio, they didn't talk. Then I put darkness in the studio, they didn't talk. They didn't say anything. They just sat there. Then I went to, you know, I've done a lot of sparrows recording. You don't hear sparrows anymore in the cities. Have you ever noticed it? Why? Because of our cell phone radiation.
Environment.
It's just moving away from civilizations, you know. So yeah, the sparrow dying was my scene.
And
Thank you for recognizing it.
really, sir. And that we used to hear the same baby cry sounds in many films and even in Endiran and Nanban. But in 2.0, we heard a more realistic sound of a baby cry. When the Pakshi Raja was born by a sparrow, that feels like a little stammering of real baby sound, because those old sound effects feels like it's like a 10 days old baby, that sound. And how could you perceive?
It was a 4-year-old baby.
So
My assistant's wife gave a birth, and first thing I asked him, like, go record. When the baby cry for milk, don't give the milk. Just sometime. I'm very sorry. Sometimes we are cruel people, you know. When I did RDG with them, you will see tomorrow in the festival, the sound of goat, the sound of camels, I take immense pain in getting them, because you have to get a goat act, you know, and you can somehow get them in the frame and make them move, get your shot. But the real acting comes from sound. You know, you see sequences where the baby goat actually talks to this guy, then he calls the other goats. So when we were designing sound, I said, okay, the uncle goat is on the left surround, the auntie is on the right surround, you know, the mother is on the rear surround. It's like that we just distributed, you know. So making them, and it's a story of a guy who gets stuck in Middle East, and his only job is to graze the goat and the camels in the desert, and how he, you know, almost spent 4 or 5 years there, and he actually behaving like a goat, you know. So how an animal and a man, you know, this human man-animal relationship actually evolve And sound is used for narrative aspect. Tomorrow when you see the film, you will understand it. And right now it is shortlisted for the Oscars. So fingers crossed.
Let me finish with the final question, sir. Even though cinema is a visual storytelling medium, how sound design that a director or a scriptwriter should improvise himself, even because you are a director too. So that's why it's maybe a tip for directors, sir.
So most of the time directors don't write about sound. They don't incorporate sound as a part of the narrative. They always think about hero's entry, heroine's entry, and conflict, and how to end the first half, how to get the interval point, then climax, pre-climax, climax. That's a formula with which you work. Very rarely, filmmakers who comes to me with, they just say that I don't want music. When somebody comes to tell me that I don't want music in the film, I want only sound. There was a Marathi film that I have done which won the Maharashtra State Award. It's called Rainy Day. It was about somebody's having a dream, and within the dream it's always raining. It's like maybe like an early morning dream. So the duration of the film is like very little in the story, but it's constantly raining. Whole film is raining. So how do you? And he said, I don't want music. For me, the sound is the music for me. So then, I was perplexed because sound of rain is white noise. After some time, people get distracted. It sounds like noise after some time. So how can we get sound effects make meanings? When I did a film called Otta Siruppu, it was which I won this national award for it. It was one space, one actor speaking to the camera. Now, as it is, people get bored. In the Instagram era, 2 minutes is your maximum attention span. How do you hold the whole space, a whole film, a 2-hour, 2.5-hour movie, with one man talking to camera? It was the biggest challenge for me. So I was thinking, there could be people who have claustrophobia, sitting in cinemas. And if you have claustrophobia, and if you are only showing one room, what will you do? How will you make the people feel that it's actually not one room? It is actually one lifetime of this character you're witnessing it. So I devised a plan. Have you heard of something called audibles? You know what is audible? Okay. So audible is something that is getting very, very fast acceptance in the West. Audible is cinematic narrative sound. You have audio books. You've heard of audio books. So audio books with cinematic narration of sound is called audibles. So I thought I might as well use audible as a form in the film. So what happened is, this guy is narrating the story, and when he is narrating the story, the sound goes to that place. The ambience, the action, whatever he is saying, all that is being recreated in sound. So over a period of 2 hours, the audience never felt that they were looking at one space. They got transported to that space, so mentally, though physically they were looking at one space, mentally they kept going back and forth. They never felt that. No claustrophobia they felt. They got hooked onto it. They're kicking us out.
So the scene you played.
Where are you? Okay, I see you. Okay.
From the scene you played from Slumdog Millionaire, could you brief us on how was the process in creating that scene? You and the director. What was the conversation between you and the director? What did you? I want to know. What do you want from the director to what are the things you want? The information you would want to know from a director for the scene to be made, and what did you add to this scene? What are the things that you added in this scene? Danny Boyle would have come with certain ideas. Like you said, he wanted that muffled noise. When he wakes from the water, that is his idea. And what as a sound engineer, what did you add, and what are the conversations between you and him, sir?
See, most of the time we don't want any ideas from the director.
You don't want the
I'm just
ideas from the
joking.
director?
Just joking. So we basically we discuss, we ideate. Okay, what is the idea that he had in his mind? He only said one thing. I want this scene to be sounding like as if water running through his ear. That was the only aspect, you know. Then when we construct it, you know, a scene cannot hold in just one, in that one, just one idea, you know. The idea can come and go. Various ideas have to come and go in one sequence. Then only it becomes engaging, you know. So those are creative decisions. Sometimes you take it on the table. Sometimes you work on one idea so that we can explore that idea. Ready? Yeah, just play this. Can you play it slightly louder, please? So when he's actually narrating how he killed the people, we are actually in that space. You know, this sequence where we have used a lot of music, but the earlier sequences we didn't use music at all. So this is audible being part of sound narrative. Done? Okay. She says we have to go.
ரசூல் பூக்குட்டியோட மாஸ்டர் கிளாஸஸ் அண்ட் கான்வர்சேஷன் பார்த்து முடித்தோம். இது மாதிரியான இன்னொரு மாஸ்டர் கிளாஸஸ் அண்ட் கான்வர்சேஷனில் நான் உங்களை மீட் பண்ணுறேன்.